Wow, it's 8:35 in our time. We are just on time. So item 11, it's a study session to review. I think I said that already, the Mary Avenue project. So welcome, Interim City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So tonight with this study session on Mary Avenue project, Council will have an opportunity to provide comments to staff and to the applicant. The community development team is here to present the item, and John Martier, our senior planner, will take the lead to go through the presentation. And Charities Housing, who's the applicant, is also in attendance and will be part of the conversation tonight. So with that, I will turn it over to community development.
Thank you, City Manager, Mayor, Council members. I just want to have a few brief comments. The presentation tonight is actually going to be done by Charities Housing and their team, so staff has no PowerPoint presentation. I just want to clarify some things. I think those comments were touched on by both the Mayor and the City Manager, but just so people know, because we had received questions, this is a study session only tonight. There is no action being requested of the City Council. The primary purpose, even though this project has been presented to the council before, is to make sure the council and the public who are interested are familiar with the project before there would be any permit approval considered by staff. Also, this is a housing element site that is a 100% affordable housing project. Given that, the permit approval process would go to an administrative hearing and would be a by right approval, which is something we discussed during the housing element process. So the permit would not be coming back to the City Council. However, since this is a city-owned site that was essentially carved out of city right-of-way and would remain in city ownership, even though there would be a long-term lease involved, the city has quite a bit of control over the project and the surrounding right-of-way. So even if this project were to go forward and be approved, it would still be under city ownership with a long-term lease. And the key document that will be coming back to the City Council for its approval post the development permit is a disposition and development agreement. So council would need to approve that, which would include a lease and the terms of the development. It could be a fairly detailed document, which really gives you a measure of control over this project. So I just wanted to get that clear, since the process is a little different than the typical private development projects we see in the city. So with that, John and I would be happy to answer questions, but at this point I'd like to turn it over to Charities Housing. I believe Kathy Robinson will be taking the lead on the presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Chow, members of City Council and staff. I'm Kathy Robinson with Charities Housing, and I'm really delighted to be here tonight. This has been a long journey for this development, and we're really happy to finally be at this point in the decision-making process. Charities Housing is here. I'm joined by my colleague Andy Leaf, who's the project manager for it. We have the architects here, Peter Coe and Laura Roberts from Co-Architects. Peter's actually a resident of Cupertino. We have Denise Wantaji from Housing Choices Coalition, who's one of our partners and assisting us with the intellectual and developmentally disabled folks that'll be living here, helping us choose the residents and assist them in being independent. Orrin Mahoney's here as our Rotary partner representative, because this is really a collaborative effort by many parties. And DJ Edwards is here also. He's our civil engineer. So we have the whole team, and if you have questions, we are prepared to answer them all. Next slide, please. I'm just going to take a few minutes, remind you who Charities Housing is. We're a local nonprofit developer. We own and we manage everything that we build. We've been around for 35 plus years and have a wide-ranging portfolio of affordable housing throughout Santa Clara County. Next slide, please. This is just a quick representation of where our developments are located, from Mountain View and Palo Alto down to South San Jose. Next slide, please. And this is, I just wanted to focus on this one development a little bit because this is in Cupertino. This is our Veranda Senior Housing Development. We built this in partnership with the city a few years ago, and 19 units. A third of the folks that live there were formerly homeless seniors, and it's a great asset and a great development in the city. We really appreciate the partnership we've had with the city in maintaining this property. Next slide, please. So just very quickly, this is just to orient everyone as to where the property is located. As was mentioned, it's a parcel that the city created a few years ago specifically to make it available for affordable housing. It's a pretty challenging site, being long and skinny like it is, but we think we've really come up with a creative way to use it and make a nice community in the future. So I'd like Peter Coe and Laura to come up to talk about the development itself.
Good evening, council members, dear council members. My name's Peter Coe, with Coe Architects. I'm a long time Cupertino resident. My family moved down from Oregon since 1988. I raised my family in Cupertino, and our office has been doing a lot of project in Cupertino, at least a few shopping centers here through the years. And also we work with nonprofit organization on doing affordable housing project in the Bay Area for the last 25 years. And probably a couple thousand of affordable housing units has been designed by our office. And I was invited to start the project in 2009 with the former mayor, John Gettle. And initially we started pro bono study because like Kathy was saying, the site is really challenging and narrow and long. And I think we have multiple design solutions since 2011 and 2015. We've been keep improving the design and to get the maximum unit on this site. Also trying to design the building like two-story to mimic the neighborhood massing and scale, and everything was part of the consideration. I will let Laura Roberts to go to the detail, but I'll be here more than happy to answer your questions on the design. Laura.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Laura Roberts with Coe Architects. I'm here tonight, can I get the next slides, to show you a little bit of the architectural details of this project. So we are proposing 40 100% accessible and affordable units in between two buildings that are articulated in this very long site with a parking lot in between the two buildings. So we have 40 units. Out of 39 of them are split into 3 studios, 22 one-bedroom apartments, and 14 two-bedroom ones. And we have only 1 3-bedroom unit that will be assigned for a staff member. Next slide, please. So there you can see the site where to the right you see building 1. In between we have an articulation of the long stretch of the site with the parking lot, and then to the left you have building 2. Next slide, please. Here you have a perspective of the community center. So some of the amenities that this project has is a community center and office manager office that is across the street from this view. Next slide, please. That's the manager's office in the bottom, and there's a unit on the top. Next slide, please. So here I can talk a little bit about how we are. These are prototype units. The first one that you can see is a studio unit. It has around 450 square feet. The next one is a typical one-bedroom floor plan. The area of this is around 560 square feet. The next one is a two-bedroom typical unit. Sometimes we have units that are articulated, a two-bedroom one. Sometimes it's articulated with the living room on one side and then the two bedrooms together. So we have a variation to that prototype. Next slide, please. And then in these slides, I'm showing the community center floor plan with a laundry, a communal laundry, a boiler room, and an additional office. And then to the right, you have the property manager's office, and again, a laundry room and a boiler room. That's for the other building. Next slide, please. So yeah, what I want to say, and we brought a study model here that I like to pass along for you guys to see. Architecturally, in such a challenging long site, what we have done is, as a design intent, was to articulate the elements of each unit so they are perceptive from the street as individual units, and so with this we're developing character to each individual unit instead of the building, such a long building, being perceived as a long mass. We are breaking down the mass to integrate this character and pedestrian scale to the building. That's all for me.
Just very briefly, I wanted to mention the services that'll be provided for the residents who live there. This will be a development that has a mix of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but the rest of the population will be Cupertino residents who are lower income and may need some support to be successful too. So we have a whole range of services and supports that we have planned. Housing Choices will speak next, and they'll tell you a little bit more in detail about what they do and how they help the residents that they serve. West Valley Community Services is one of our partners as well, and they'll be providing food and other trainings and supports that they bring to the community. Cupertino Rotary, of course, you know, and they're looking forward to putting on parties and barbecues and helping the residents become integrated into the community. And then at all of our developments, we contract with Catholic Charities, which is a 60-year-old social service agency that provides the rest of the sort of service coordination that people need sometimes to be successful. And they do everything from helping people register their kids in school to, how do you ride the bus and where do you go to get food if you need it, and all those kinds of services. So we feel really confident that this development will be very successful, and the folks living there will be well taken care of. Denise, thank you.
Hi, good evening, council members. I'm Denise Jauregui, and I'm the Executive Director of Housing Choices. This evening, I'll touch a little more on who we are and the services that we will be providing on site. Can you go to the next slide, please? So Housing Choices is a nonprofit that started in 1997. It was founded by parents and San Andreas Regional Center, seeking an organization that can help parents find alternative housing for their son or daughter that are going into adulthood. As parents are aging, they want to make sure that that their son and daughter are taken care of, right? That there's a place and a plan with supportive services. And that's the premise of Housing Choices and how we started. We since then have served or have expanded into 5 different counties, most recently San Mateo County. And our main mission continues to be seeking affordable housing options for our clients to allow them to live independently with the proper support in place. Each of our clients have different supportive services. So sometimes they have someone that is with them 24/7, or maybe it's someone that's with them a couple of hours during the week. Our services are in addition to that supportive services that they're already receiving. And we would be coordinating with the regional center. So we have a support team that will be focusing on each individual housing needs to ensure that they're stable. Can you go to the next slide, please? So here I'll touch a little more on the hands-on, what we'll be doing on site with the residents. Our main focus is really to ensure that, when clients are moving in, if they need a reasonable accommodation, we're there to help them through that process and navigate that with them and their supportive services, as well as helping them to ensure that they're prepared for any annual inspections or recertifications that may come. Maybe we're working with their parents or maybe the regional center or another third party, but we're that liaison between them and the supportive services. We're also just there to ensure that they're complying with the lease, right? If there are issues, our main goal is to get ahead of it. So we're meeting weekly with property management to ensure, hey, there isn't anything that's going to come up or something that we're not aware of. We want to make sure we're on top of it to make sure that it's submitted or whatever is needed, that we're working with supportive services. We're also there to really help with any mediation that may occur between them and other neighbors. Maybe it's a noise issue. Maybe we need to work with our clients and the supportive services to understand, hey, what that means and quiet hours or whatever that looks like within the property. We're also there to help make other community referrals. Maybe our clients need assistance, right, to help with financial need, or maybe something occurs so they need that financial assistance. So we're making these referrals to third parties, or maybe or they're in need of food. We're connecting with the services that are already on site for the entire property or externally. Maybe they're seeking employment, so then maybe we're working with their supportive services to help them with that. So whatever that looks like for the individual, we're there to be that liaison. And then we're also attending these quarterly meetings with the Circle of Support, and that includes with the regional center and maybe supported living, maybe parents, whoever is involved in that Circle of Support. Our goal is to continue that conversation throughout their tenancy at this property. And engaging in these weekly check-ins with property management and with the residents. With 19 units, we anticipate to be there about 3 times a week or as needed to check in weekly with residents. And we're also there to ensure that there's this community inclusion, that we're providing on-site events, maybe social gatherings to get our clients to come out and join and mingle with other residents or other clients that we have at the property. And that's a little bit about these on-site services that we would be providing. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Chow, council members. In recognition that tonight is the Major League All-Star Game, I'm thinking this is the 9th inning, and I'm coming to close the presentation. Next slide, please. So there have been various design challenges brought up in designing the project, environmental issues that we have addressed, and want to let you know just briefly about those. We have completed an acoustic study. The design will include the properly rated STC rated windows to bring the noise levels to within HUD requirements. And air quality, we have studied that. We will have mechanical systems, HVAC and filtration systems that again will ensure that the air quality is appropriate for the residents. And then soils mitigation, Of course, most properties these days that are developed, you need to study the soil, and we've done multiple investigations. And after all of that, there's one area of concentration of lead deposits, which can be dug up and off-hauled. And the county is overseeing this soils management plan. Next slide, please. Just to let you know a little bit about the schedule as we move forward. Of course, we had a funding commitment in April from the council. Thank you again. We are seeking to be entitled and enter into a DDA later this year. And we will apply for tax credits, which is the major source of funding for our development, in March of next year, and have a commitment hopefully in May. And then we would start construction toward the end of next year. And it will be, relatively short construction duration as a fairly small project. So hopefully we're occupying in the beginning of 2028. Next slide. Just to let you know, we have a website that the community can access, you can access, the whole world can access. And we have various information, studies and things on the website that people can visit to be informed. And with that, I'm closing our formal presentation, and I think we have consultants and our staff here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you for a really great presentation. Thank you for all the love put into the project. And so it's really well designed. Does the council have questions first? Oh, Councilmember Wong. Okay, sorry. Councilmember Wong.
No problem. Thank you for taking the time to be here. I'm not going to judge the merits of this project. For a very small group of community members, I'm going to put this in the perspective, the holistic situation we have with the greater community. The question we have, and I'm hearing from a lot of neighbors in the Garden Gate area, when did we change the design to take an extra lane and more along with the road diets? When was that decision made, and who made that decision?
Yeah, if you want to go ahead, we can, otherwise we can get you out up here.
I think I was part of the council guilty in 2019 who made the decision to to create a parcel along that. It's sometime in 2019, I think.
Yeah, if I may
No,
add
but
some
creating the parcel and taking the lane are two different things. The parcel didn't include the lane when you made that change, did it? So I'm asking staff, when did this happen, and when did we make that occur?
John Martier, Senior Planner, Community Development. The parcel was created in 2023 off direction of the Council Work Program, which called for a creation of a parcel on the cutout of the Mary Avenue right-of-way. In order to create a buildable parcel without overly impacting the right-of-way, it necessitated the taking of multiple parking spaces along that area. And we do have the Director of Public Works, Chad Mosley, that can probably give some context as to the merits of the design of that parcel.
No, I understand that. I'm just asking questions that neighbors are asking me, and I wanted the council to have a chance to ask on behalf of the neighbors to the staff, because a lot of people are confused as to why this is happening. The second question I have is why we were not explicit on this change, and when were neighbors notified that this had occurred?
Well, I guess let me try to answer. Like, it's one thing is there's nothing that's actually been approved yet. There's no permit, there's no final design approved. I think we're nearing that point now that this is the design, which was the reason for having this study session, because it's anticipated in the next couple of months there could be an administrative hearing for the permit. and knowing that the city council would be approving a disposition and development agreement after that, there's really no point in approving a permit unless everybody's on board with the design at this time. So I think just generally one of the constraints with the configuration is it's a narrow corridor, it's a really tight parcel. I think they showed that at Charities Housing in their presentation, that you're putting a parcel where there was nothing but diagonal parking, you're going to lose parking. There's no way around that. And you're also going to have to make changes to the roadway in order to keep it a two-way road. I know there's other people who have more history on it than me, but I think it is just the trade-off. You have a tough site and you're trying to keep things functioning.
Understood. Can we have a design that does not take the 16 to 20 feet that is in that diagonal parking away? Why is that not feasible in any of the designs? And were there any designs that showed that before taking away the 16 to 20 feet?
Council, Chad Mosley, Director of Public Works. I was integral in the creation of the parcel map that created this parcel. The existing right-of-way had a certain width that had, an existing roadway as well as the diagonal parking. There's about 7 feet, I believe, between the end of the diagonal parking and the property line. To create a parcel in this area, all of the diagonal parking would definitely have to have been removed. And then in discussions with various developers, and I think even discussions with the Rotary at the time, the parcel that came out with just removing the parking was way too narrow to develop or be even useful. So the question became, how wide can we make this parcel? Because every foot counts with respect to this kind of development. And so we looked at the right-of-way and said, 1 lane of vehicle traffic in each direction, which is what it is currently. The center lane, the kind of dead space lane in there, I think was removed. And we trimmed down parking because there was not a lot of parking use in that area. There's some use, but not a lot. So we trimmed down some parking on the east side. We kept sidewalks on both. We included a sidewalk on the west side because we're building housing there, and then we included bike lanes in both directions. So we narrowed that right-of-way down to about 56 feet. Can't really get much narrower than that, but it still provides a usable roadway and traffic in there while maximizing the width of that property for development. So that was the thought process put behind it, was how can we provide something that's still useful for the public in the right-of-way and still create a parcel that works for development.
Was there an opportunity to take some land back from the apartments to widen it, or to ask if the apartments on the other end would be willing to sell some land to actually create that widening and bring back some of those parking spaces?
We did not reach out to the apartment building and request land for this. We were trying to utilize the existing right-of-way, which is the land that we had at that time.
Got it. Don't mean this to be an inquisition. I'm asking questions that the Garden Gate community members have asked. They've heard us with questions. But why was this put on as a housing element site when we didn't have a permit or approval at the time?
None of the housing element sites had permits at the time they were put on. They're identified as housing element sites in order to go through the permit process to be approved. So I think the big driver for this is the one site of the 58 we knew could be 100% affordable. And it's not only affordable at low income, it's at extremely low and very low income, which is extremely tough to get, especially in a city like Cupertino. We don't have a lot of those opportunities. So I think this really helped us with our arena at the lowest end, being able to identify a site, even though it is a relatively small one at 40 units. It was a valuable one. It was also seen as one that the city had a large measure of control over, therefore it was more of an assurance that we could get that housing.
I appreciate you guys taking the tough questions. These are the ones the residents are asking. I have one last one. Why not get rid of the bike lanes and bring back the parking?
At this point in time, we do have policies and plans in place to enhance bicycle lanes. And in fact, just a couple of years ago, we spent some funding. I think it was funded by the Apple Donation Project to enhance bicycle access along that right-of-way. So,
but is there anything keeping us from putting the parking back there instead of having the bike lanes there?
we would lose bike lanes, and that would be a council decision, but staff typically recommends having bicycle lanes in there for safety.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for these questions, because I am a little disappointed that there is no picture about the parking before and after. I think this is the issue that the surrounding neighborhood is really concerned about. So if we have any, we do need to understand. I understand when we approved the parcel, which I'm glad to, we understood we will be losing some parking. But at that time, the Westport project wasn't modified as it was modified today, and we lost a lot of parking then. And then the demand for parking is a little different. So it's more challenging today, and we do want to address the issue up front. I hope that next time we will have a more clear presentation on here is before, here is after, and here are the parking we are planning, we are losing this much. That would be appreciated. And then I have two questions. I see that the units it's really great that you are able to create a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom. Even the manager units, it's like less than 500 square foot, you are able to fit in a 3-bedroom. It's amazing how you are able to fit in multi-bedroom units in a small space. But I wonder how many of them is wheelchair accessible?
The units are 100% accessible. Yeah, we have elevators in both buildings.
So even the second floor story?
Yes, all of them.
With this configuration, you are able, the hallway would be able to fit wheelchair. Wow.
Yes, and all the bathrooms will have either a tub that is accessible or a rolling showers, and they're 100% accessible. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing design. And you guys are doing this pro bono, or no? Just the front, just the planning part.
We are just designers.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And then I wonder, so the noise level indoors is studied. How about noise level outdoors? Are there any patio outdoor space? And then what will be the noise level there?
Yes, so we have no exterior space proposed for each of these units. The exterior areas are just accessing the units. And we have a noise study report done, and we are addressing that per their recommendations with the thickness or the double pane or in the windows where they're needed. So we won't have exterior spaces provided, individual exterior spaces.
I think we were talking about the sound wall along highway.
Yeah.
So would there be additional sound wall installed? No.
No,
So
the site is
it's
so
not
tight
necessary.
that there's no room for that. So beside the sound wall, we have a 7-foot setback that is a Caltrain right of way.
Mm-hmm.
And so our property starts from that 7-foot setback from the sound wall.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, so if no more questions, let's go to public comment.
Yes, Mayor, I have 7 requests to speak from in Community Hall. I see 4 requests to speak virtually.
Okay, that's about 30 minutes, and we do have a lot of items, so if you can conserve your time and make your point quickly, that's really appreciated. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
So we have Yvonne Thorstensen, followed by Trevor, followed by Connie Cunningham. Welcome, Yvonne.
Good evening, council members. I am a board member of Cupertino for All. And we are an organization that is a coalition of residents, homeowners, renters, and allies that are advocating to create a sustainable, inclusive, and vibrant city for all residents now and in the future. We are just wanted to express our enthusiastic support for this project at the Mary Avenue Villas. This is a very important project that addresses a valuable, underserved population, and it is a really creative design that is in a size appropriate to the neighborhood, and we are really, really happy to be able to see this come to fruition in the and we've been hearing about it for more than 10 years, I think. And I think we are really grateful to people like Orrin Mahoney and the Cupertino Rotary Housing Corporation for their persistence in keeping this issue up on the forefront so that it can go forward. So we look forward to seeing this project completed so that we can welcome these new neighbors. And we hope that going forward, the council will remember the people that are involved and that would benefit from this project.
Thank you, Yvonne. Next we have Trevor, followed by Connie Cunningham, followed by Dolly Sandoval. Welcome, Trevor.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for your time. My name is Trevor. I'm here tonight as a father of 2 young children, and I strongly oppose this project. Mary Avenue is already overwhelmed. We have a busy city service center with large trucks and service vehicles constantly on our narrow 2-lane street. We've seen new townhomes and condominiums rise directly across from the heavily trafficked Memorial Park, which hosts weekly city-sponsored events drawing hundreds of people, funneling even more traffic onto the street. This road is also a major bicycle thoroughfare connecting communities over the Highway 280 bridge, and it's next to a popular dog park. Adding another 40 housing units would only create further unmanageable congestion and serious safety hazards on the street that's already acting as a funnel for a huge volume of diverse traffic. My opposition is also rooted in significant environmental and public health concerns, particularly due to the site's immediate adjacency to Highway 85 and 280. First, air quality is a critical issue. The California Air Resources Board and the California Department of Public Health strongly recommend a 500-foot buffer between freeways and sensitive land uses like residential housing because of the dangerous levels of particulate matter and other pollutants. While this project might claim a CEQA exemption due to its size, such exemptions should never be used to bypass fundamental health and safety assessments, especially when the proposed residents are among our community's most vulnerable. Future occupants who are developmentally delayed and extremely low income deserve to live in a healthy environment. They require higher standards of care and protection, not exemptions that might compromise their well-being. The city has a moral and legal obligation to conduct a comprehensive risk assessment to truly understand and fully mitigate these profound health impacts. Second, noise pollution from the freeway will be a constant burden. Living so close to a major freeway almost guarantees the site is a noise-critical area. For individuals with developmental delays, excessive noise isn't just a nuisance. It can be incredibly disruptive, affecting sleep, concentration, and potentially leading to significant sensory and behavioral challenges. We need concrete plans for robust noise mitigations that are beyond just adding thicker windows to a community that is trapped inside their 400 square foot apartments. In summary, placing this development on Mary Avenue would gravely exacerbate existing traffic, safety, and infrastructure issues. More critically, it would expose a particularly vulnerable population to significant and well-documented air and noise pollution risks directly from Highway 85 and 280. The city has a responsibility to prioritize the health, safety, and well-being of all its residents, especially those who are most susceptible to environmental harms. I urge you to reconsider this proposal and instead identify a more suitable, healthier, and safer location for this important housing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next we have Connie Cunningham, followed by Dolly Sandoval, followed by Anita Lusabrink. Welcome, Connie.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. My name is Connie Cunningham. I'm a 38-year resident and chair of the Housing Commission, speaking for myself only. I am pleased to support the application to develop the new ELI, extremely low income, and BMR housing units on city-owned property along Mary Avenue. This is much needed housing that has been on the council's work program for many years. I remember 2019 when former Mayor Scharf made it a priority, and I was new to the Housing Commission. I have attended the Housing Commission and City Council meetings for this project for all the years intervening. Many families and individuals will be helped with this housing. It will also facilitate our city's goal to keep individuals from falling into homelessness. Many IDD individuals live with aging parents. Therefore, these apartments will help them and will also help our community. It is good to see that this issue of parking is being discussed and that it can be resolved with careful thought. I urge you to give comments to staff that will move this project forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Connie. Next we have Dolly Sandoval, followed by Anita Lucebrink, followed by Gia Pham. Welcome, Dolly.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and staff and council members. I urge you to take this project and run with it. I kind of chuckled when our architect came up and said that he's been involved with this project since 2008, because I was serving on the city council as vice mayor when I heard about this project in 2008 and have been following it over the years, and am proud of our city at this point to see it before you to make some decisive actions here tonight. I also come to this viewpoint of this IDD housing from an unusual position. My father had a partner who has a 45-year-old IDD daughter. His partner died in January. That IDD daughter was living with my dad and her mother at the time. My 85-year-old dad then was necessitated to help get her out of bed, get her ready to go to school, make sure she got on the bus, be there when she came home. And I can tell you, it's a tough, tough job. And one of the reasons why it's so tough is because we don't have enough housing stock for people with developmentally disabled needs, or frankly, enough housing stock in general, but that's not tonight's topic. I am proud of what my dad did, and even prouder that she eventually found some housing through one of our local organizations. I have followed this project, and I'm just very pleased that it's before you again tonight. I hope at the study session you make the right decision to move it forward, and I hope that we can see groundbreaking happening by the end of next year. Well, I'd like to see it sooner, but I'll take the end of next year since that was their timeline. So thank you tonight for hearing this, and I hope despite the concerns that have been raised and will continue to be raised, I am sure this Cupertino community can come together and find a solution to all these concerns. Maybe not one that everybody wants and will accept 100%, but keeping bike lanes is important, keeping some parking is important, but keeping a housing stock that addresses the variety of needs of our community is really most important. Thank you.
Thank you, Dolly. Next, we have Anita Lucebrink, followed by Gia Pham, followed by Orrin Mahoney. Welcome,
Hi,
Anita.
my name is Anita Lucebrink, and Mayor Chow, council members, and the Planning Zoning Commissions, Public Works, whoever else is here. I really appreciate you for letting me show my support on the best possible use for the development of the right-of-way property on Mary Avenue along Highway 85. I, as a member of a family of a young adult with autism spectrum disorder, who has been a client of Housing Choices and the Regional Center, I really appreciate that Cupertino is not working off the failure model like so many governmental agencies and developers, which is waiting for citizens until citizens are already homeless and to try to create the solutions for those in the lower income levels. I see that you focus on a decisive, proactive, and preventative measure by creating this housing. We can start today by providing options for those with developmental disabilities and others with lower income earning abilities due to situations beyond their control. Without affordable, which in this case means extremely low income, housing near their family, many adults, especially with intellectual and developmental disabilities, are at severe risk to join the growing number of homeless in Silicon Valley. There is also a component of people in our community who have disabilities that need their support network, including these incredible services like Housing Choices and Catholic Charities, et cetera, a regional center, and especially their family nearby. In the long run, having a community that is supportive of its entire population will be cost effective, as well as create time and opportunity for more positive, proactive efforts rather than just damage control after the fact. There are over 10,000 people with developmental disabilities living in Santa Clara County, and more broadly, 160,000 with disabilities of many types. That's 1 in 12 residents that need help with their housing. I realize it's very difficult to make this financially viable, but everyone will have to make concessions, including the people that have to live near a highway wall. So I appreciate your looking forward to making it work no matter where we can, and I hope the neighborhood can be available for some concessions too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Anita. Next, we have Gia Pham, followed by Orrin Mahoney. Welcome, Gia.
Thank you. Hello, City Council and Chambers. My name is Gia. I'm the Communications Coordinator at Housing Choices. In my role, I have the privilege of meeting individuals with developmental disabilities across our community, hearing firsthand their housing struggles, their barriers, but also their resilience, their hopes, and their wins. I also get to work closely with developers and service providers who are committed to closing the housing gap for the disability community and advancing equity. Recently, I received a letter from a parent, and I'd like to share it with you. My daughter, Sarah, is a Regional Center client and is now 42 years old. About 20 years ago, your agency helped us with the last month's rent and security deposit loan so we could move into our townhouse in Aptos. We paid it back through monthly payments, and we're so grateful for your help. In fact, 20 years later, we're still here, and we love our home. This project will bring over 40 affordable homes to Cupertino, including 19 deeply affordable units for those with IDD. In a city where 70% of adults with IDD still live with their aging parents, this is a safety net for the future of many of these families. As parents grow older, their adult children deserve to live in a stable and dignified place to call home. This project is in great location considering its connectivity to other opportunities for independent living. Fremont Union High School District runs the Linking Youth and Community Services program, which serves students with disabilities ages 18 to 22. The program meets at De Anza College and a nearby church, both of which are near the proposed Mary Avenue Villa site. Some of these students could qualify for housing here, making it an ideal step towards independence. Mary Avenue Villas is being led by a collaborative, mission-driven local team working to uphold the legal rights of people with disabilities to live in an inclusive, community-based setting under the Lanterman Act and ADA. There was a previous comment in this chamber regarding environmental concerns, but in my personal opinion, I think that's a red herring because there are many folks with disabilities who are homeless, and this project will give shelter with services, with opportunities to connect with their neighbors and build relationships. Thank you for your support.
Thank you, Gia. Next, we have Orrin Mahoney. Welcome, Orrin.
I'll make this quick so you can move on. So as you heard, a housing project was proposed for this project as far back as 2009. For those people that weren't around at the time, it was a senior housing project. It was a nice project. I was on the council then along with Dolly. I was disappointed when it didn't get moved forward. But in retrospect, I'm glad it didn't move forward. Because as you know now, we have a variety of options for seniors in the city of Cupertino, including low-income housing for seniors. This is the only opportunity for this underserved population to live in the city of Cupertino. So I've been sitting in on the design meetings with the team that you see here for almost a year now, every week, every Monday. We've been working through every detail. They've been working through every detail that you heard about. This project is ready to go. We're ready to go, and I thank you for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Orrin. And we will move to those members of the public requesting to speak virtually. We have Peggy Griffin, followed by Callie Wong, followed by Jennifer Sharon. Welcome, Peggy.
Good evening, council members and staff. My frustration is transparency. There has been multiple examples of which parking spaces are going to move, which ones are going to be deleted. And the last update in the supplemental report indicates that only the west side of Mary Avenue is going to be deleted. In fact, and it's not clear. It says that the spaces are going to be open to the public, but then when you read the report, it's included in their parking space. So which is it? Is it only the resident, or is it open to the public? And which spaces are going to be, there hasn't been a map showing Mary Avenue and exactly which spaces are going to be removed. This is a public land, public funded project, and you should notify the public on what's going to happen. And that's my frustration. I am in support of it, but I want the truth and I want to know what to expect. And I think a lot of other people expect that too. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Next, we have Callie Wang, followed by Jennifer Sharon, followed by Duleep Pillai. Welcome, Callie.
Yeah, I'm a community member, and I frequently go for walks around Memorial Park and this area. I'm a big supporter of the plan for housing for folks with disabilities, for those with low incomes. I really congratulate the developer and the city staff for working so creatively to get a viable project through in this really unique, really kind of narrow plot of land. So I think it's a great idea. I support it going forward. For the record, I've never seen the parking there fully utilized 100%, and I hope that over the course of the process going forward, comment and the inputs will be helpful in helping to advance this project and taking care of everybody's concerns. So big support for the project. Keep going forward. Thank you. That's my time.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Sharon, followed by Duleep Pillai, followed by Jennifer Lucas. Welcome, Jennifer Sharon.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members. I've attended the community meetings about the Mary Avenue Villa since it was announced. And they've been nothing but transparent and very forthright in everything that they've shared with everyone, including really announcing this meeting this evening at the top of their website. It's clearly an excellent project for our city. I urge you to give staff direction to continue the project tonight without reservation. There's a lot of reasons that it is, but here are just a few. First, it helps serve underserved populations with critical local housing needs. We can make a difference here in Cupertino. Second, the plans have been carefully considered. After extensive public outreach and discussions with current and potential future residents, the plans have been thoughtfully and carefully designed. Third, the developer has been transparent in their work and have fostered open community engagement. partnering with several organizations and the city of Cupertino, has created a project that's the best for all of Cupertino. And that includes current residents, future residents, those that walk, bike, park, everything. I urge you for these reasons and more to continue this Mary Avenue Villas project tonight without reservation. Thank you for considering my input tonight and your work on behalf of Cupertino. Thanks.
Thank you, Jennifer. Next, we have Dilip Pillai, followed by Jennifer Lucas, followed by San Rao. Welcome, Dilip.
Good evening, council members. My name is Dilip Pillai. I am strongly in support of a project of this type, but location is not right. When you are deciding on a location, it should be taking consideration of the neighborhood. Is it convenient to the existing neighbors? And unfortunately, this is not the situation. I'm sure none of the people who spoke in support for this project live in that neighborhood. That's the reason they don't see that how it is going to be impacting them. And I agree that Oren Mahoney has been pushing the project since 2008. I have always been against that. Initially, it was taking half of Mary Avenue. Now it is taking the parking spaces. I don't know. It is going to impact just the residents over there. As another person just commented, it is going to be reserved for the residents over there, or it's the public parking. It is going to be a huge mess over there. And please don't approve this project without further study and taking the neighborhood's input. Thank you.
Thank you, Dilip. Next, we have Jennifer Lucas, followed by San Rao. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Jennifer Lucas. I'm the manager of the Central Coast Office of the California State Council on Developmental Disabilities. And we're an independent state agency that is dedicated to advancing systems change, building community capacity, and improving services for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities and their families. And I'm speaking to voice my strong support for the Mary Avenue Villas project and to urge City Council to continue to move this project forward. As others have stated, it's been many, many years since this project first began, and meanwhile, people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in Cupertino have continued to wait patiently for a place they can call their own. With the vast majority of adults with developmental disabilities in Cupertino living with their aging parents, it really is critical that the city provide affordable, permanent, and inclusive housing options for this population. It is an ever-growing population and community, which makes it even more critical to build now. As was mentioned earlier, it's very rare to have 100% affordable housing develop, and even more so that it includes very low income and extremely low income housing. And this is critical to that population as well, as many are subsisting on fixed incomes. This particular development will enable adults with developmental disabilities to live in their own home, in their own community, be part of their community, and receive the supports they need to enjoy life and to belong. Thank you for supporting this project.
Thank you, Jennifer. And next we have San Rao. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members. I am asking you to bring this item back and do a thorough study of a number of aspects that I have not heard any council member discuss today. And I want to once again thank Councilmember Wong for asking questions on behalf of the Garden Gate residents. However, I have not heard any council members talk about the liability issues of the structure that is being proposed here. I've heard no questions on the ground lease and the terms of the ground lease. Specifically, I haven't yet heard questions on what liabilities the city may incur, both financially as well as legally, as a result of being the holder of the ground lease, even though there is a third-party operator. Most importantly, I have heard no discussion of whether Article 34 of the California Constitution applies. And let me remind you once again, I've sent you a letter on this. Article 34 of the California Constitution requires voter approval before developing, constructing, or acquiring low-rent housing projects by a public body, including a city. If the city owns the land, carved out the lease for low-income housing, and did not seek voter approval, the city could face litigation or be forced to bring the matter to ballot. I have seen no discussion of whether Article 34 of the California Constitution applies and whether they should go to a vote of Cupertino voters. So while all of the reasons are emotionally correct and appealing, and it is the right thing to do socially, you are a body that needs to evaluate the legal aspects, the financial aspects, the state law aspects, and I've heard no questions on that, nor do I believe you will do justice to that tonight. And so I'm asking for you to create study sessions on each of these topics and give our city attorney the time to fully and thoroughly vet the legal implications of the ground lease. What happens if charities housing goes insolvent? Who funds the operations if it is not self-funded and self-sustaining? What is the long-term dependency on the Rotary? And what happens if the Rotary is not solvent in, let's say, 30 years, when its current strong proponents may not be in charge? What happens if charities housing maintains unsafe conditions and the current occupants decide to sue? Is the city going to be liable? What happens on debt terms? Is the debt going to be recourse or non-recourse? If it's recourse, is the city having to put up recourse for this debt? What happens if investors decide to sue because the tax credits were recaptured by IRS because compliance was found to be in question? So there are so many questions here on due diligence. You cannot move ahead on this tonight. And the main thing is Article 34. So please do not move ahead. You need to evaluate all
Thank
of
you.
this.
That is your time, San. And Mayor, that was the final speaker that had their request to speak submitted in before the cutoff.
Okay, thank you. Time check, it's 9:32. So any more comments, questions from council members? Vice Mayor?
Thank you. So I am hoping that we can see some parking plans before and after. This could be done in an informational memo. I think that would clarify the maps for us, because I can look at the two, and there was another question regarding who would be able to use those parking spots. So there, I see that there's a number on the south, well, that would be the west side of Mary Avenue, that are still going to remain, or well, they're going to be shifted over, and that you're losing the parking on the east side. Okay, I see there's a potential opportunity that you might be able to coordinate with the Westport developer, and that's at the south end of the property. They have a large structure, and they have a building which basically you can't really get around, and they've got their trash bins all in front of it, with in front being on the Westport side. But the back side of it, there's a good bit of land, and you will be relocating the sidewalk to the east. So it is possible that if you could coordinate, the developer could coordinate with the Westport owners and landscape that, and see if you can find a way to use it, because I don't see how they are going to use it, and it looks like they've put bark on it, so it's not really conducive to much right now. So that it could provide some congregating space, so I hope that you consider that and reach out to them. With regards to Article 34, it's an interesting question. I believe you're applying for low-income housing tax credits. That generally exempts Article 34, but you're using below market rate funds. I don't know if that applies to it. So I would like the attorney to look into that to make sure that we're following that properly. I suppose at worst case scenario, we've agreed to support the project with $3 million, I believe, of below market rate funds, $4 million. Well, between Eden and this one, we've got, I believe, $4 there. So I would like to hear about that, and if there is an issue, what modifications we might have to do in order to support the project. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Mohan?
A quick question about parking and then another question. I know that the staff report said that there were about 80 parking spaces that would be abolished, and instead you would have perpendicular spaces parking for about 33 spaces. So I'm also assuming there were some questions about when there are events at Memorial Park. As it is, the Mary Avenue is crowded. What happens with 50 fewer parking spaces? And my assumption is that the De Anza parking is still available for events when Mary Avenue is crowded and not enough parking space available. Am I right?
I'm not quite sure the logistics of how De Anza College parking spaces are utilized. I have heard, and commented that there is that they are open to the public during Memorial Park events, but I cannot confirm that at this point.
Okay, but aren't we using De Anza parking right now?
I
for
Go ahead. I believe we do use De Anza parking right now.
But they won't give you by default. I think individual organizers
but it's
do
like
have
per case, by case.
And they may charge you too. They may not always waive the fee.
I don't think they're charging.
For events, we get the parking, is my understanding.
For free?
There's the, for city events we do, yeah.
Okay.
For city events, we do, but for other community events, there is no agreement on. They have to provide us parking.
Yeah, no, I understand that there's no agreement, but they've been doing it. That's been the past practice, and I'm assuming that will continue. My other question is, I'm happy to, comment is, I'm just happy to do my part to move this project forward. We've all heard from all the speakers. It's been many years in the works. And I'd like to also acknowledge past city councils, which had the vision to take a look at a small strip of city-owned land and turn it into housing for a segment of our population, which for whom so little is easy. And so I would be proud to move this project forward.
Thank you. Councilmember Wang?
Thank you. I personally have my uncles and aunts and parents have had faced this challenge of living with adult children with developmental issues. In fact, my uncle, who's 76, had been living with us for quite some time as well, along with other relatives. He's had issues since he was 28, and it's been a long journey. It wasn't easy, but we pulled together. And we've never sought to ask the government for help and place this burden on the municipality and others. But I want to be clear, I'm not against housing for the IDD community. This is not the right place. And more importantly, the process that got us here has residents feeling duped. We've seen a constant erosion of parking, increase in road diet. Given how the college district treated us with regards to McClellan and kicking out 100 of our neighbors with no support from Cupertino for All, the Rotary Club, and other housing advocates. We're here to support this project. I question the mission here to support affordable housing. Where were they when we needed them? We can't count on De Anza. They're not always going to grant us free parking. In fact, they're building in the parking lot. Westport has decimated our retail with their changes, and we will still have a lot of requests for great programming at Memorial Park because of our amazing Parks and Recs Commission and our Parks and Recs Director. We're going to want more stuff in those parks. The previous council was misled by both staff, and some of the council members continue to mislead us as proponents in these discussions. From what I've seen, it was not clear that there would be a reduction in parking and road diet. There was no explicit message here that these lanes would be removed. Vice Mayor Moore's correct. Where's the map? Mayor Chow's correct. Where's the map? Meanwhile, the decimation of the Oaks and the density of Westport have continued to erode the quality of life for the Garden Gate neighbors in this area. Where are the folks defending those Garden Gate neighbors? The action sets a very bad precedent as well. We always love to call this a shared sacrifice. Great. And at any time, the city can now seize the De Anza lane they removed and declare it as a parcel and build. This is underhanded eminent domain. The intent is to create on-site services that will further create burdens for parking with competing events. The pro-bike lane over parking stance also needs to find a balance. We are creating a scenario where we will worsen the parking situation for community events. This is a strain on existing infrastructure. In addition, we are exposing these special individuals to the worst areas of pollution despite the assurances on air quality and creating a prison-type environment. This is cruel. I cannot support this project, and I encourage other neighbors to push back on this, as this is not in harmony with the neighborhood and the expectations of our residents. It's also could be a clear Article 34 violations. Residents need to vote on this. The council members up for re-election next year will be held accountable for the continued erosion of our residents' rights. Given the amazing talent on the team to create great design, can we harness your amazing ingenuity to look at an option that does not take away our lanes, reduce our parking, while improving our quality of life? 80 parking spaces are gone. We should also look at Article 34 if there are exemptions. We need more due diligence. I cannot support this project as it is right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Fruin.
This is a really easy project to support. It's in our housing element. We made this commitment to the state. We made it to our people. We've had a lot of discussion about it. I really just think it's rather embarrassing that it's taken us this many years to get to this point to help serve this population in particular. I am thankful that Vice Mayor Moore has asked for some additional information that can be provided by way of a memo. I think that's the best way of moving forward, and I look forward to seeing the project approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Okay. Thank you. So I do want to elaborate on the issue with Article 34. There is a December 15th, 2022 report by Abundant Housing LA called Grappling with Article 34 in the California Constitution, and within that they mentioned specific exemptions to a referendum. So their exclusions include affordable housing developments using any of 5 specific revenue streams. These include, let's see, funds for affordable housing preservation appropriated and dispersed pursuant to Health and Safety Code, Chapter 5.5. Funds for projects that have received state loans but are having difficulty with other financing. I believe it's going to be item 3, so it would identify the low-income housing tax credits potentially as our exemption. So that's specifically what I want to know about, and then whether or not we can couple our below market rate housing funds with that, or if it needs to be separated out. I'm hoping not. I know this isn't an ideal location next to the freeway. Unfortunately, for this type of housing, you need to provide a lot of financial support for it to move forward, and the city of Cupertino has come up with a creative solution in order to do that. Looking at the parking plans that you've come up with, I think you did a really great job with narrowing down the way you've narrowed down the center lane and then slid the sidewalk over, retaining the bikeways on both sides of the street. I think that's very important because you have at the time it was a $14 million Don Burnett Bridge, the Mary Avenue Bridge for the pedestrians and the bicyclists. So I think that's really important. I hope that what I'm looking at for the landscaping includes bioretention areas, because that was an issue that we were working on several years ago with regards to having bioretention and cleaning up the stormwater that comes off the street there. And lastly, like I mentioned before, I think you do have an opportunity working with the Westport people. You sound interested in doing that because it looks like you have a potential congregation area for the residents. If you can work with that project, I think that'd be great. So good luck. Thank you.
Thank you. So, yeah, I'd like to thank the former council members and then those who have brought up the idea initially in 2008, and then it's very tough. The city doesn't own a lot of land, so this is not the ideal location, and I hate it when we lose parking. But then this is just a great project that I have to support. But I do hope that we do our best to address the concerns as best as we could. So I have a few questions. So how many how many community meetings you have held so far with the neighborhood?
There have been two community meetings, one last July and in January of this year.
Okay. So would you be doing another community meeting now that the plan is more finalized?
The plans are substantially the same as they were that we presented in January, but we could hold another community meeting, certainly.
Okay. I think what's really uncertain is the parking situation. So maybe that's something is really on our city staff to really clarify. So you will provide 22 on-site parking, and then there will be, we are removing about 50 space. We would be reducing the street parking from 80 to 33. So those 33 will be open to public, which was not certain.
Yes.
So we are confirming those 33 on-street parking will be open to public. Yeah.
Yes.
And you are not required by state law to provide any parking spaces, but you are providing actually 24 spaces, 2 parking spaces plus 2 van accessible spaces. Is that 24 total?
I believe it's 22 total, including
so 2 is part of
the
the
accessible
22.
spaces.
Okay, so 22 total on site.
Correct.
So we are looking at the reduction of about 47 spaces on this array.
I would like to clarify, there are 43 parallel spaces on the east side that are going away, and 79 diagonal spaces on the west side. And then we're putting back 33. So there is a net loss of 89. I'm going off memory here.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So I just want to make sure that the
information.
accurate numbers are out there.
Yeah, unfortunately, that information I don't think is provided in the presentation or the staff report, right?
No, we'll provide that in the memo, or I'll give that to the staff.
In the supplemental memo, and I do apologize, I didn't provide the civil drawings, which do show the existing conditions, but in the supplemental memo, I will be.
Yeah,
hopefully
so
by the end of the week, get it out to the public.
if we can get this memo to make it clear what's the change in parking, and please post that to the project webpage, which is already set up. And also, I think I would like the staff to maybe take a look at Mary Avenue. I think for the Westport, the developer was able to change the design a little bit and some walkway a little bit, and to come up with 20 parking spaces in that small space. So I'm wondering whether we can somehow examine Mary Avenue to maybe come up with some extra parking spaces, so that we can, because right now, so we are losing a total of 89 spaces. That's a lot. So if we can redesign that. So I would like, and also I think we would like to understand the Article 34 more clearly. And another issue brought up by the community member is in terms of the liability, so we will be leasing the land to Charities Housing, who will be operating it. Just in case, anyone sues because of any issue, would the city be liable? Do we know?
Since we wouldn't be operating the asset, it's unlikely that the city would be liable.
So, okay.
The operators would, also have substantial insurance.
That's good to know. And then I understand from the, is there any other questions? From the staff report, this will be approved as administrative review at an administrative hearing exempt from SEQA and subject only to design review based on objective standards. However, the City Council will ultimately be the decision-making body approving the lease and disposition agreement with Charities Housing. But I would actually like the City Council to be the approving body for the project. And since we are the property owner, this is not property by another applicant. So I'm hoping that we can direct the city attorney to explore that option. Can we, the city property owner, designate the City Council as the approving body for the project?
We will explore that option.
Yeah, and then at that time, when we finally approve the project, we would have all the information, the parking, and address any of the issues that's raised today. Yeah. And then I hope that, so I will make a motion to direct the staff to look at parking configuration on Mary Avenue to see if we could possibly reconfigure and create more parking spaces. And then also direct the city attorney to see if the City Council could be the final approving body for the project. And then bring it back. Yeah.
Mayor,
Is that sufficient?
Mayor, may I add, also address the Article 34 risk?
Oh,
Mayor,
and
also add the 34 risk.
And address the. I think that could be done before that. So that's the city attorney would provide feedback to the council about the Article 34 risk.
We can do that. We could do an informational memo.
Okay. Yeah, so as part of the parking configuration, I hope we have more certain data on the parking usage, because we have heard is the area is not really used a lot. But then probably during festivals, there is big demand. So if we can have some understanding on that, and maybe more certainty on the availability of De Anza College, that would be great. Thank you. So that's the motion. Is that too complicated? Did you get all of it?
Yes, Mayor.
Oh, thank you. May I have a second, please?
Wong, second.
Mayor, for my clarification, what is the motion? That we move forward with instructions to staff and the city attorney to provide additional information in the form of a supplemental report?
Some of those are, I think some of those are supplemental, but the parking study, the parking information, I would like that to be posted on the project website.
Okay, so are you
the Article 34? I don't think we need a memo. Maybe just information email to the council.
It's easy to write it down in a memo format.
Yeah. Okay. Would you like a memo for Article 34? Okay. Okay. So memo for Article 34. And but I do want the project to move forward. Let me clarify that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
okay.
So, any Councilmember Fruin.
Yeah, so if you can repeat the full motion to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Chow moved and Wong seconded to direct staff to look at the parking configuration on Mary Avenue to explore possibly reconfiguring and creating more parking spaces, to direct the city attorney to see if the city council could be the final approving body for the project, and then bring it back to council, and requested the city attorney draft an informational memo on the Article 34 risks.
And please do add the clarification from Councilmember Mohan that we would like the project to move forward.
Well, you've just created several impediments to it moving forward because it makes it sound like you want to bring it back for another approval. So what I really want to know, and frankly need to know in order to be able to make a decent decision on this motion, is what this does to the timetable for the applicant and for city staff, because I think that we're probably asking them to do a great deal of work to produce no new information.
Does that, and the project does need to be approved in administrative hearing. So the only change is that it will be approved by council.
Yes, but administrative hearing is different. It just requires a staff member. It doesn't require an entire council meeting. And we're about to go on break.
But I think my understanding from staff is it will be another 6 months before this is finalized, right?
That's not my understanding.
We don't have a definite time frame, but it was much less than 6 months. We could have been looking at an administrative hearing in the next month or two. Because typically, a permit would be approved before the development agreement. That's the typical process. The development agreement has to come back to the city council.
Mm-hmm.
But if we had the plan we had tonight, it would be very close to being able to go to an administrative hearing.
But the plan we have tonight has quite a few inconsistencies there that was pointed out by public members there. So the plan is not very final.
Based on having to address the concerns raised, I suppose that could be true, but I think everybody knew there was a certain amount of parking that was going to be lost.
Not related to parking. I think there was
some of the other issues. You're correct. The Article 34 issue with the California Constitution, that, to my knowledge, had not been raised before. But the physical pieces of the design, I think all of those had already been addressed. So we knew there would be a loss of parking on both sides of the street. And
I think the email from Peggy pointed out some inconsistency in numbering, in the content of the plan set. So that led me to believe this is not really a final.
Well, I think we could clarify those, and I think that was part of the motion tonight on parking. If it was just clarifying the numbers based on this design, that would be a quick action.
The question is, if we bring this back, if it's legally allowable for us to bring it back to the council, what would be that impact on the timeline?
I would defer to the applicant on that because it may impact their funding abilities as well, which is a bigger issue. Okay,
so likely it could be like the first or the second meeting of September if it was going to, if the material will be ready for administrative hearing, right?
That would be fine. That would not be much of a delay if this went in September, but I would. I
guess my question is, do you need to prepare additional information if it were come to the council?
The staff report would be more involved in getting on the agenda. It would take a little bit longer. But I think if it were to go in September, that would certainly be feasible. And I don't think it would impact your schedule in terms of other things you have going on, but I don't want to speak on behalf of the applicant.
Mayor, can I clarify something?
Yeah.
So there's the supplemental we had issued yesterday addressed some of the inconsistencies that the community member pointed out in the staff report and the plan. If there are still outstanding questions or inconsistencies, I wonder if there's a way for us to provide information through an info memo. I believe Vice Mayor had suggested an info memo on parking as well. Would that be helpful to provide, to provide additional information that way? And that won't impact the timing.
Yeah, I mean, as if council approval is not going to add too much extra work, then it would not impact timing. So that's, yeah. So I think then the motion is still feasible, right?
I support the motion because we don't have enough information, and what we don't have from staff is those issues on parking. What we don't have from the city attorney is the Article 34 risks, and I think those need to be addressed before we even approve anything. So, to Councilmember Fruin's point, it may delay the timeline, but that's not the issue. We don't have a complete application.
Not disputing the motion, just want to clarify that, staff did not include the whole plan set as part of this package. The purpose of this study session was purely on design and introducing the project. I do apologize for not including a existing conditions site plan, but the applicant has submitted numerous sheets that show the existing civil drawings as well as mechanical and structural drawings I felt were not pertinent to a discussion as it relates to a study session based upon design and introduction to the project. But the applicant is very, very far along as to their application process and what they've submitted. So.
And if I could just add on the parking, I think it was answered. The number of spaces lost in total is 89 on both sides of the street, 46 on the west side, 43 on the east. So I don't know that that's going to change unless we also needed to look at Mary Avenue as a whole, and if there's opportunities to pick up other parking through reconfiguring the street. But as designed right now, it's a net loss of 89 parking spaces.
For the mayor, but what we can do is ask for the reduction of the bike lane so that you can bring back some parking spaces. The study hasn't looked at that. There was an assumption that a bike lane is mandatory there. So we haven't fully explored the opportunities to replace those parking spaces. We know what's missing. There's no solution to trying to actually increase the parking spaces, which is the ask in the motion.
Yeah, thank you. So that's, I think if the motion is feasible, I hope that we just vote on it. Then, yeah, Councilmember Fruin.
I'd like to offer a substitute motion that we allow the project to proceed as was previously described, and that we provide the information that has been requested by way of info memo, both on the topic of Article 34 and on the question of, I believe it was parking and other issues that were issued in the supplemental that could be clarified in an info memo. If there are other things that people would like to include in that info memo, I'm perfectly open to amending the motion, but I believe that captures everything that everyone was interested in.
So how about the possibility to bring it to a council vote?
What would the purpose of that be?
For transparency, I think this is a city project on a city property, and with city funding, it's important.
What more would we get from that we haven't had today?
The final approval, I think it should be
that's
because
symbolic.
Eventually the city will have to approve the lease agreement and disposition agreement. So the city council has to really approve the project.
So why not discuss it then? I don't understand why we're trying to cut this project to death over time and delay it.
No,
we either believe in it or we don't.
We won't delay it according to the staff.
Well, I'd ask for somebody to second my motion.
We are just ensuring that there is transparency in the approval process.
Do I have a second for my substitute?
I'll second it.
Through the mayor, may I go through discussion, since we're discussing the amended motion,
Councilmember
the
Wong?
substitute motion? So the assumption that this is symbolic is the problem here. It's an issue of transparency. We're assuming that this is already approved and it's never going to come back. You have residents that are upset that just have figured out that they're about to lose the spaces. We don't have a complete set of plans that they could have looked at. They just got those like earlier today or maybe yesterday. That's not transparency.
And
So I cannot support that substitute motion.
And we don't have any parking plan we don't have anything map for the parking to even look at. And the staff report did not even mention the total loss of parking. Even though that I don't consider that part of the project, but as a city project, that's the part of the impact. So the information we have today is incomplete. I do support this project. But this kind of project, since last year or before the state law is changed, this kind of project does come to the council. The state law multiple state law have been passed to try to take control away from the city council. And this is, for other projects, we have no control, but at least for our own city project, we should have control by the city council. That's all I'm asking. We should not allow the state law to take away control from our own city project. Vice Mayor.
So this project would be entitled to ministerial review, even under our own housing element. That is part of our local control. We enacted that upon ourselves. We enacted it upon ourselves. It's our own process. This isn't just a matter of SB 35, it's a matter of our own code. So that's just not true. Again, do you believe in the project or not? We went through the housing element process. Everyone knew that this was going to encroach on the road. This is not new. It's not. Vote.
Yeah, Vice Mayor, I'd like to remind you that's the part of the housing element we objected. So please support my motion. Thank you.
So I think we need to vote on the substitute motion first.
Let's call a motion. Let's call the vote.
Let's vote.
So this is the substitute motion.
The substitute motion.
Yeah.
Councilmember Fruin.
Aye.
Councilmember Mohan.
Aye.
Councilmember Wong.
No.
Vice Mayor Moore.
Aye.
Mayor Chow.
No.
The motion carries with Wong and Chow voting no.
Okay. 10:07.
Do you want to take a 5-minute break?
Do you have to take a break?
No, we don't need to.
Yeah, I think we have two more items that we hope to get through. It's so item 12, study session regarding possible updates to oversized vehicle parking restrictions in the public right-of-way.
Mayor, would you like to go 13 and then 12? Because 13, there's some urgency.
No, let's just do 12 and 13.
Okay.
Yeah. To me, I think 12 has more urgency than 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this evening now, I'm presenting on a potential oversized vehicle parking ordinance for the council to discuss and consider. We're looking at potentially updating the municipal code to address enforcement loopholes in the current structure for managing oversized vehicle parking in our city. And we'll be looking at resident concerns, traffic circulation, safety, and aesthetics. And the goal, I believe, is to balance quality of life, safety, legal risks, and enforcement. This is a city work program item. The sections of the municipal code that ultimately will be updated are listed in this slide. The current practice in our city is no vehicles are permitted to park for more than 72 hours in a single location in the public right-of-way. That applies to all vehicles. The issues with the current scenario are, well, the way that we implement it is through a complaint-driven process. We don't have signage throughout the cities. When we get a complaint, our city staff goes, identifies the issue, and enforcement takes place. They do that through a process of tire marking, not necessarily using chalk. Because we don't have signage, it requires a kind of reinspection. We get a complaint from a resident, city saying the vehicle's been parking there for 72 hours. The city staff, code enforcement person goes, marks the vehicle, and then 72 hours later they check the vehicle, and if it's still there, then they're able to cite the vehicle. So it's not a very efficient mechanism for enforcing. Additionally, the challenges are that you can just move your vehicle, a couple of inches, and then you can park for another 72 hours. So it really doesn't provide for vehicles sort of moving on. You can pretty much park indefinitely. With respect, and this has specific impact in terms of RVs, where we have people living in the RVs and staying in the same location for extended periods of time. There are certain areas within the city that they're specifically impacted by these vehicles. They include the area behind Target, the area near Stelling and Rainbow, and then near Foothill and other intersections. Our current enforcement statistics in the city are we get approximately 200 complaints annually, mostly from RVs. And we're tagging about 5 of these RV vehicles per week. We issue, though, only about 21 citations to the RVs, and that's because the RVs understand the method for evading enforcement, and so we're not citing that often. Revenue in connection with citations on RVs is only about $1,700 because it's so few citations that we're actually able to give on RVs, and the total revenue for all of our parking citations is $180,000 approximately per year. I should also mention that on the Zoom we have Sheriff Valenzuela if the council has questions for the sheriff, and then we also have Director of Public Works and Director of Community Development here to add further insight if needed. We brought the idea of a new parking ordinance to the Planning Commission on April 22nd. At that meeting, staff recommended a specific set of protocols that would be, relatively simple to implement, including banning parking of RVs or oversized vehicles in the residential areas. The various residents spoke against that. They didn't want to be required never to park an RV vehicle in the residential streets before they had been able to park their RV in front of their home for 72 hours. This would have impeded their ability to host visitors and or load and unload their vehicle if they're going to go on vacation. And so staff then re-looked at the process and brought other ideas to the Planning Commission on June 24th. Those included what other cities have done, a citywide ban on parking oversized vehicles. And an oversized vehicle in the presentation you'll see is defined in Vehicle Code 670, and so we just used that description or definition from the vehicle code. The citywide ban, one of the benefits of a citywide ban is it allows you to post signage only at the entrances to the city, and then you can immediately enforce versus having to just have the complaint-driven enforcement that we currently have. The city of Redwood City has implemented a program like that. And so what we presented to the Planning Commission was the idea of a ban throughout the city, And then the Planning Commission also considered exceptions to that ban. So specific exceptions might be a 3-hour period, a 3-hour, period during the daytime that an RV or an oversized vehicle could park in the city. So that would be between 6 a.m. and 8 p.m. And the idea for that would be somebody driving a large vehicle who wanted to stop at a restaurant or needed to go to a grocery store or have other errands within the city, they would be able to take care of those without violating the citywide ban. And then also providing for a 1-hour parking period during the nighttime. That was one exception. Another exception was for residents. The residents would be able to park their oversized vehicle within the city. And then the Planning Commission considered various kinds of permits to allow that to happen. And one of the permits, you could provide a permit for 72 hours for a resident to park their RV on a residential street or any other street in the city. And residents could come to the city to get a permit. The Planning Commission considered that, but they felt that would be too much of a hassle for residents who had RVs. Instead, they considered and recommended that residents be able to obtain an annual permit to park their oversized vehicles on city streets, and their permits would be no charge to the residents. We also, the Planning Commission also considered non-residents, and they recommended that the city provide non-residents with the ability to obtain 5 72-hour permits per year. Now, those non-residents would go to the city and obtain a permit from the city. It would allow the city to know where the resident would be parking the vehicle for 72 hours, know the license plate on the vehicle, know who the person was who would be parking, and so that would provide benefit in terms of tracking and understanding who's within the city. And it would also provide non-residents the ability who might be traveling through or for whatever reason want to be able to park their RV in the city for a period of 72 hours. Non-residents could also get more than one permit, but to park for more than 72 hours, they would need to move their vehicle 1,500 feet to park for the next 72-hour permit period. So it would still be a limit of 72 hours in one specific location. And the Planning Commission identified that the city should install signage specifically in the areas of where we see problems. So potentially at the Alvis and Bandley area and maybe the other two that were mentioned earlier in the presentation. But because, again, we have the citywide ban under this program, we wouldn't have to install signage throughout the city, just at the city entrances. So the pros are the signage. Making the signage is much more affordable. I think it would only cost the city $50,000, or maybe it's $25,000 to install signs at the city entrances, and it allows us to enforce right away. The cons specifically are focused on that daytime period and the nighttime period. Those were the exceptions to the ban. The difficulty there is enforcement. The city staff would need to know when somebody began parking in the place, to know when their 3 hours was up, and likely the complaints would come from residents or other people within the city complaining about the vehicle, and then again the city wouldn't know how long the vehicle had been parked in that specific space, so it's hard to keep track of those kinds of exceptions. The resident program exception, we've talked about it already in terms of the specifics. Here I'm showing how resident would be defined. It's basically the same type of definition for a city resident as you would have in terms of determining eligibility to go to a local public school. California driver's license, or a lease or deed showing a person's occupancy, a current vehicle registration showing their address here in Cupertino, or whatever other documentation is acceptable to the Public Works Director. That would be potentially the way an ordinance could be designed to identify who is a resident. A non-resident, we talked about the specifics of how the non-resident parking program would work. So I'll move on. The pros of having the resident permit is that residents can maintain their RV close to their home. They can, it balances the needs of the residents and their guests, and it eliminates the need for multiple or repeat permits in terms of going down to the city to get the permits. The cons of the structure of the resident permit program that allows residents to have an annual permit, it does potentially provide for a near permanent parking of RVs in our streets, because a resident could get the annual permit and then park on a street in the city for 72 hours and then move the vehicle 1,500 feet and then park for another 72 hours and then move the vehicle again and continue that throughout the year, so that their vehicle is always parked on city streets. And they are then able to avoid the cost of storage, which is oftentimes what people do with their RVs. There are other ways to design the resident permit program that solves for that problem. The pros for the non-resident permits are it provides non-residents and tourists and others who may be interested in visiting the city the opportunity to come and park for 3 days and be in the city. It definitely discourages long-term dwelling, and it provides limited access such that we wouldn't have as many RVs parked on our streets. The cons are that the non-residents may have no other nearby options to park their vehicles, and that non-residents may view this as unwelcoming. So on the signage piece, if the city posts signs, enforcement is much more efficient, like I mentioned earlier. The citywide parking regulations allow for signs to be placed only at city entrances, so that's approximately $25,000, 50 signs. Otherwise, signs would need to be posted on every block in the city, which would be very cost prohibitive. Signs cost about $513 per sign, which is about $2,000 per block. I think I just did that slide. Am I going the wrong way? I am. If you do the citywide restriction, the sign needs to summarize the main restrictions and consequences of the violation. The sign needs to clearly state that the regulation applies citywide, and it needs to make reference to the applicable municipal code sections. Redwood City currently has a large vehicle ordinance, as does Saratoga, Los Gatos, and Mountain View. Redwood City also requires large vehicles. It forbids large vehicles from parking on public streets at night with no limitations. Saratoga requires that large vehicles may not park in residential areas for more than 72 hours and have to be moved a mile after the 72 hours. Los Gatos deals with the similar issue. Large vehicles may not be parked where posted or on designated streets. So they have a number of streets and a number of areas that are posted where they don't allow large vehicles such as RVs. And Mountain View does not allow large vehicles or RVs to park on certain streets or adjacent to Class 2 bikeways. So a lot of the local cities have been passing various kinds of an ordinance that we're talking about now. I should just talk quickly about the legal context. I'll just start out with the grants pass opinion. Prior to the Supreme Court opinion that came out in the summer of 2024, the rule in California and other states within the Ninth Circuit was that cities could not cite or hold an individual legally responsible for sleeping or camping on public property unless the municipality had an option or a bed for them to go to. If they had no other place to go, then it was cruel and unusual punishment, according to the Ninth Circuit, to require that they not sleep in the on public property. The Ninth Circuit reversed that, indicating that that was not considered to be cruel and unusual punishment, and because of that opinion, there's been much more movement in California and within the Ninth Circuit to take action to protect public places from people sleeping on public streets or public property. In Mountain View, when they first adopted their large vehicle ordinance in 2022, they were sued because they were immediately towing RVs, and it was also prior to the Ninth Circuit, the Supreme Court's recent case. And since what we're recommending here is not to immediately tow vehicles. In fact, it's my understanding that towing RVs is very difficult, incredibly expensive, and almost impossible because none of the towing companies want to have anything to do with the RVs for various reasons, one of which they get them to their yard and the owner doesn't come to pick them up, so they're kind of stuck with the RV. Another reason is they generally have sanitation in the RVs, which also makes them a hazardous waste for the towing company. I think the idea here would be to cite the RVs and hope that that would take care of the problem. And anecdotally, I would say that in the city, when we do cite RVs, the people pay the citations and they do move. So our expectation is if we have a system of citing vehicles, that would be effective in terms of having vehicles move on. So fiscal considerations, as I said, signs are expensive. Going with the citywide ban really allows for us to have effective enforcement at more of an economic cost. In terms of permit processing, it's my understanding from the Public Works Director that they estimate it would cost us $46.50 to issue a permit. So there is a question about if we allow non-residents to get permits, would we charge them for the permit? If so, that we could have the Public Works Director or the Public Works Department decide what that fee should be, but that's a detail to consider. Currently, we expect that we would be issuing 3 to 4 of these non-resident permits per week. If that increased, we might need to consider allocating more staff time, but it's my understanding from the Public Works Director that staffing levels would allow for issuing these permits without extra, staff. The other benefit of having a citywide ban is it provides for a uniform citywide rule, which reduces confusion, cost, and allows for the entrance signs. Other local options for parking. This was something that came up from the public, and it's something that we should understand, which is we did do some looking into where else RVs could go and park in our region, and we weren't able to find any organizations that welcome RVs to come and park with them. highly likely that in our region there are places that one could pay to park their RV. But in terms of free RV parking, we're not seeing that. I would also like to mention that recently the city of San Francisco, just last week, their Budget and Finance Committee voted unanimously to create an ordinance that only allows for 2-hour parking, for RVs in the city of San Francisco. So ultimately that reduces people living in their RVs permanently on San Francisco streets. San Francisco has a little bit of a different issue than we have. They have over 500 RVs, and anecdotally, we understand that the people living in the RVs in San Francisco are generally have fewer resources than most people who might be living in their RVs in the city of Cupertino. The city of San Francisco is providing a vehicle buyback program, and they're also providing housing and resources for homeless people, and they're providing outreach. Their oversized vehicles size definition is very similar to the one that we're proposing. So that was as fast as I could get through that.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I initially envisioned this to be a simple modification to the Muni Code to address the issue where people park literally in the same location, moving a few inches 24, so they are occupying our public street for free 24/7. And so I looked in Fremont, Sunnyvale, and Mountain View, Saratoga. They all adopted something like you have to move 1,000 feet or 1 mile before coming back. So I thought it would be simple as that we would just require them to move after a 72-hour period by a certain feet and then come back. I think in Mountain View it's like after 24 hours or something. But it has, then there are concerns raised by staff about potentially people would just move to the staff raised concerns, and then the staff recommended to bring this to Planning Commission. So then it has become very complicated now. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Any questions from council members? But this is an important issue we do need to try and address. Yeah. Yeah, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Just for some clarifications, and I want to thank the Planning Commission for all of their work on that. I know that they went through several iterations to get it through. So we were provided with a summary sheet by the city attorney. So we would be looking at potentially the first part, the citywide ban, plus providing the annual permits for the residents, the non-residents potential permit, possibly with a fee, and then the suggestion is that we do the signage at the city entrances to begin with. So I was wondering if perhaps we can hear from members of the public on this one with regards to the unlimited number of 72-hour periods for residents to have an annual permit, if having to begin with either 15 or 20 be the number of those 3-day periods that they could be permitted for, and then have a check-in in say 6 months, since we would just be starting it, to see if that turned out to be an adequate number. So at issue with the 72 hours was to make sure that individuals who owned an RV had plenty of time to load it up and unload it if they've gone on a trip. So I'm wondering if, say, 20 could be a viable number, so that we aren't looking at the serial, neighborhood mover. Okay.
It would require that we keep track of how many the residents have used, but I think we have some creative solutions for how we could be doing that. One of the important points that the Planning Commission was thinking about was that they didn't want the residents to have to go down to the city to get their permits. So we would need to have a mechanism to give them maybe 20 tags, or a mechanism for, automatically and to a certain extent, on their own, agreeing to abide by the rule and only using their permits for 20 periods.
So they would be a bit on the honor system, but it could be that they've got 20 lines on their permit and they just write in the dates and move on to the next line, and we trust them to be honest about this. And if we see, their neighbors will probably call the city if they are seeing that it's not being used properly, and they know about that.
That makes sense to me. We also have Public Works and Code Enforcement if they have comments on the idea.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good evening. Apologize for the delay there, Mayor, council members, city manager, and city attorney. So I'm hearing the option and the potential issue from the resident coming. And luckily, our city is very fast, forward-thinking and more advanced. So the applicant can always file we can tailor the system so that applicant can file online, and they can print out these papers they can put on their dashboard if they want. If there's a concern about who can file for these things, there's always also an opportunity to upload a driver's license or something like that, proof of residence. So all that could be automated online.
Okay. Any other Councilmember Mohan?
Thank you. Sorry to bring you back. I had a question for staff here. How do you envision the enforcement to take place? I mean, there's just substantially more work involved than is currently being done. So.
Yeah, good question. Thank you, Councilmember Mohan Benfu, Community Development Director. Enforcement is always challenging doesn't matter which city you talk to, right? I think the challenging part is always the staff resources. For our city, you have your code enforcement officers, and you have the sheriff's deputies that you can count on during off hours. There's a non-emergency number that folks can call. So I think the challenge is really how quickly can we get out there for this 3-hour parking, 1 hour parking, 72-hour parking. You'll find that most cases, because staff are dealing with life safety issues as a primary issues first. So we may not be able to get out there to identify those 3-hour parking restrictions. So that is going to be a challenge, I think, but we'll certainly take a look at this. I think there's also an option to review and come back in a year, see how that the program works and whether we need new resources or not. Maybe we can start talking about designating one code officer just for this particular purpose. That's something that can be considered as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. So how about construction vehicles that might need to park during a home renovation? Would they get a special permit?
I think currently they already do.
So they already do get permits? That would not be affected by this program, right? Or
I think Director Mosley may have a better answer than I do, so he's coming up now.
Good evening. If they're doing work in the right-of-way, they're required to have an encroachment permit, but they're not required to get permits for parking, let's say, in front of a house, unless they're infringing on traffic lanes.
Mm-hmm. So in front of the house, but in front of the house, if there is parking space, that's public right-of-way. they would need encroachment permit then?
Currently, they don't need that. It would depend on what is approved with this ordinance modification.
So then, with this ordinance, they will need to apply for a 3-day permit? Yeah.
It would depend on the direction we get from council tonight on how that would perceive. If it was a straight restriction on any vehicle over, I think the dimensions that were provided were 6 feet, which seems fairly narrow, or 7 feet tall or 22 feet long, they would need to get a permit, yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Unless we adopted that 3-hour parking window, then...
I think during construction, a lot of times they park for the whole day, right?
True.
So, is there a need for construction vehicle to park all day in front of a house when they do work?
I'm not sure I can answer that. It would depend on how many construction vehicles are at a specific site and if they could fit in the driveway. I do see construction vehicles parked in the right-of-way on a fairly regular basis.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And so this will be complaint-based. It seems 3 hours during the day, 1 hour during night is too complicated. And there won't be staff who will be getting up at night to check this 1 hour limit. So I think I like the Redwood version where I think they only have 3 hour limit. Where is the Redwood version? So they just may not park at night.
Correct.
And there is no limit during the day. Is that simpler? So they could park for the entire day during the day, but they have to move at night. And does any other city issue permit like what's proposed here?
In San Francisco, they have a fallback permit program for RV residents that aren't able to find housing through their housing or aren't able to manage through their outreach. They have a fallback permit program. Their permit program it lasts, though, for weeks.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm concerned about someone has to go out, check parking even if someone complains, it's complaint-based, but someone has to go out and check. Then the first hour, of course, we can expect a staff member to be available.
Well, if we don't go with the 2 exceptions, the 3-hour daytime and 1 hour nighttime exception, then any time that an oversized vehicle, we could include language that excludes construction vehicles or work vehicles there working on homes. I mean, we can come up with specific language to accept that. But anytime you would see an RV or other vehicles that don't fall into that exception, which hopefully would be easier to define, then that would be a violation.
How much is the citation? How much they pay when they get the citation?
Current citations are, I think it's $82 and some cents.
So to issue a citation, someone has to go check if the vehicle is there, come back 3 hours later to check. So that's 2 trips for a staff code enforcement officer to go.
Correct.
That's okay. Any other comments? Councilmember Fruin.
This is considerably more complex than I think what the mayor was originally envisioning.
Yeah.
And, a number of cities around us, including our neighbors in San Jose, have something relatively simple along the lines of what the mayor was suggesting. I think it was just 1,000 feet is the difference. An upgrade from 500 feet, which is what it previously was up until about a month ago.
No, I think
But this is a lot of potential staff time, and I'm very curious to know what we think it will all cost.
We haven't taken a deep dive into the staff costs. I know that this will be an impact on staff if this were to be approved as is. But Ben, do you want to add anything?
I can try. I think just without trying a program, we really wouldn't know. I mean, which is why earlier I mentioned that we potentially be looking at least one full-time staff dedicated to just this alone. For example, the 3-hour parking limitation. The time starts when we're out there and being able to verify. So the 3-hour time doesn't start when the report comes in, right? We need to be able to verify that for legal reasons. So once we get this, the call comes in, if we're able to get out there, if we're calling off, right now we have 2 officers. If they're not already on another, say, substandard housing visits or life safety issues, they can actually get out there within the 3 hours to mark it when they get out there, and the 3 hours time frame will start from that point. Then if they're able to get back 3 hours later, that's when they'll be able to find that vehicle. So that's what the challenge is. But again, without starting, I really wouldn't know what the cost would be. Potential would be 1 full-time staff.
Got it. Okay. To the city attorney, since I think you've done if not all of the lion's share of the footwork on this, did you investigate at all the oversized and lived-in vehicle enforcement program in San Jose?
We didn't.
Okay. It might provide a useful alternative here because it is much more targeted and does not require erecting an entire extra bureaucracy, which, I mean, I see where you're going with it, and certainly when it came to the Planning Commission, it was intended to catch as much as possible. But it feels to me like the program is really, the problem anyway is focused really on 2 or 3 streets. And the Olive program in San Jose is really designed around that problem. And it's been fairly successful, and will be more so with some of the ordinance updates that just occurred there. And I'd really like to see maybe some analysis of that as an alternative to this mechanism, because I certainly understand where a number of folks in the public come from on the topic of just trying to load up a camper. I realize that most people might not be campers anymore. I was for many, 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 many years. I know exactly what it's like to have to try to load this thing up. You need it outside the front of the house. You can't really store it on the driveway. It frequently won't fit. That can be a problem if you have other family or friends who are trying to join you, and you look like a miniature caravan for a couple of days as you're getting ready to take off. And maybe that's not everybody's experience, but certainly for the people who use these vehicles for their intended purpose, it is. And this would be a pretty significant impediment if we were to do it the way that it's set up. If we do go down this route, I'd like to see some opportunity for some mechanism for curing a violation. Let's say that you're eligible to have a permit. Rather than just going straight to the citation, offering that person the opportunity to cure it by going and acquiring the permit the way that we might for some non-conforming use on a property. I think that would also be a wonderful way to be able to connect unhoused individuals living in a vehicle with services. That way we have the opportunity to make that contact, because that's always a troublesome thing. The other piece of code I'd really like you to take a look at is San Jose's vanlord ordinance, which was also recently enacted, because having looked at a number of the vehicles that people are raising issues with, a pretty sizable chunk of them are very nice vehicles, and I don't think that they're people who are unhoused in the sense that we ordinarily think of, and so they may be differently positioned. And that might be a more useful vehicle for being able to regulate this activity.
What vehicle is that?
The vanlording, anti-vanlording ordinance. I'll get you the code.
Oh, it's like anti-vanlording.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so Vice Mayor, and then we should go to public comment. Yeah.
Thank you. So going back to this citywide ban, so like I had asked originally, so what the proposal is that we have a citywide ban that would have these two exceptions, one for 3-hour parking during the day and one for 1-hour parking during the night. So in order to eliminate that particular issue with the nighttime parking, we could say there is no RV parking at night, allow the 3-hour parking during the day, understanding that it's unlikely that that is going to get enforced until it's become 2 or 3 days in all likelihood. And then for residents, we would say that you could have 20 allowable 72-hour permit times, and you can apply for and get that permit. And there sounds like there's this way to do the uploading and all and have this automated and easy. I really like the idea of doing a warning for citation, but that seems to be that's not necessarily something we need to codify, but that could be, because we have a number of ordinances that we aren't so harsh on in their enforcement, so that might just be how it's being carried out by the community development director. And for non-residents, I think at first we wouldn't charge a fee, but if it becomes a problem where we're having multiples of this, then you would want to then charge that fee. So are those the kinds of changes to this that you're looking for to see what we think might be able to go through? And then if we do go to the public, when we do go to the public, I'd like to hear what the RV owners have to say about the 20 days.
What you're describing to me sounds sort of like right in, the area of what I was thinking in terms of making this more doable.
Yeah, I like the idea of being able to cure a violation, because often the first time you didn't know, you got cited, but then you find out, okay, I need to get a permit, and then the first there should be a way to waive that first citation, and then they register for the program.
This is for residents?
For residents, I think for non-residents also.
Okay.
So there is a way for. Yeah, I think they need to. They might not know the program, that there is a limitation. So, but I'm wondering, can we adopt a simplified version first and see how it goes in 6 months? But what would a simplified version look like?
The problem with the simplified version, when we first started in April, was that it infringed on our residents who want to be able to have their RV in front of their home. So then you have to have this 2-tiered program, one for residents and one for the rest of the city, which undermines your ability to have the signage at the city entrances and having a citywide program. But if we give up on the citywide program and we give up on the signs and we just decide to go back to a complaint-driven program that we have, and we want to divide the city between our commercial streets and our residential streets, then we can have a simple program. But all of a sudden, with
you need to identify what's residential or commercial streets.
Well, otherwise, then you're going to be impinging on residents' freedom with respect to their RVs, and that's what the residents spoke up about before.
I think. So we could maybe, like Redwood, we could have say no oversized parking on public street at night.
But the residents want to keep their RV.
For the residents who want to keep their RV at night occasionally, then they can apply for a waiver, right? That's a
Yeah,
kind of
that permit.
yeah,
Yes.
that permit, right? So it seems we do need some kind of permit for
Correct.
people to apply. Hopefully, an online program that's easy to manage. And
Just as
then let's not have this 3-hour, 1-hour parking. That's too complicated.
Just as a point of order, we're approaching 11
Yeah.
o'clock, so I'd like to move that we suspend the rules and proceed to consider items 12 and 13 until we are finished.
Second. So let's vote on that. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Fruin,
Aye.
Councilmember Mohan,
Aye.
Councilmember Wong,
No.
Vice Mayor Moore,
No.
Mayor Chow.
Aye.
The motion carries with Wong and Moore voting no.
Okay, so let's go to public comment. Oh.
Just as another
I still
point of
wanted
order,
to-
yeah. Councilmember Wong has had his hand up for a bit.
Oh,
Yeah, he had
sorry,
his hand up.
sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. I wanted to simplify this process. I didn't want to get to item 13 extended because I may actually run out of time, but I did want to resolve item 12 so we keep postponing it, but that's okay. We have prohibited overnight street parking, and I think that's what we have a general agreement on. Let's choose the hours between 10 and 6 or 9 and 5 or 9 and 8. Let's just get that over with. We have private property parking. Park it as long as you like. That should be easy. And what we really should just keep it to is exceptions. If you're a resident, park it 72 hours. You got to load the thing. That's great. I think the issue we have is non-residents who must have a business purpose. I think that's what it is. Active moving, active construction, active delivery. And that's really the exceptions for the non-residents. And if you're not doing active moving or active construction or active delivery, then you don't belong here. Bye. Let's keep it that simple. Is that something we can easily enforce? Asking to the acting city attorney? Or city attorney?
Well, so we're saying that residents can park for this period of time. Non-residents cannot park for this period of time unless they have a business purpose?
Yes. And residents have their 20 allowable 72-hour permits per year. That's fine, you know. And the non-residents, you got to have a business purpose. If you're, I mean, we're not going to ask you for a permit, but if you're not actively moving, actively in construction, actively delivery, like I got dump trucks that decide to sit in front of my house for like 5 days because they just want to leave it there. That's not an active business purpose, right? They're not doing active construction. But I got a concrete truck dropping like, you know, loads of concrete for like 3 hours. Oh yeah, that's an active business purpose, totally.
And so basically, it would be similar to what we're suggesting here without the exceptions for the 3 hour during the day and the 1 hour at night. It would be allowing residents with permits or whatever, and then we would be not providing the non-residents with any kind of permit process, which is very doable. And then we would just be saying, and if you do have an oversized vehicle and you're not a resident, you got to have a business purpose.
Can I just ask a question on this portion of the discussion? How would we determine it's a business purpose? Is my only, how is the non-resident applying something with the city, or whoever they're visiting in the city, they're applying on the non-resident's behalf? So that we may want to think about that, but.
So knock, knock, knock. Hey, the guy with the dump truck that's parked there for the last 3 days, what's going on? Right, you don't have a business purpose other than leaving it here. Oh, well, I'm doing a job like 3 weeks from now. No, that goes away. You know, moving truck is parked there for the last, 12 hours. They're still unloading. Yeah, that's a judgment call. Of course, you're unloading your stuff. Or, back to Council Member Fruin's point, right? You're loading the RV. It's day 2. You forgot something. It might be day 3. Okay, we get it. You're loading the RV. You're on a trip for like 3 weeks. You got to stock up. I mean, that's some common sense. And then I think the piece about vanlording, yeah, that's a great one to look at in San Jose. I mean, we don't want people just renting RVs, parking them, and charging people rent on our property. So that's a good ordinance to use. But that's a separate issue, not the issue here.
We can explore and look into that.
Okay. open for public comment.
Mayor, can I make a quick
Councilmember
comment?
Mohan, yeah.
No, I just wanted to, because of time constraints and so on, I wanted to get to a really simple solution, which is don't differentiate between residents and non-residents. Everyone can stay there for 72 hours, move it back. So we don't have this thing about going around checking who's a resident, who's a non-resident.
So it would be, you could park for 72 hours, and then after 72 hours, you have to move it, let's say 1,500 feet.
Right.
And you have to stay away 24 hours. Anecdotally, we're hearing it's not long enough. So stay away for 72 hours in another location, and then you can come back to whatever location for 72 hours.
Yeah.
Well, we're saying that's okay for residents, but not for non-residents right now. And I'm saying let's not make any.
So that was kind of my initial proposal, is just you have to move away for a certain period of time.
But then they could be, people who are parking in the commercial areas could be moving away into the residential areas to stay there for 72 hours, and that was another concern that we had.
Yeah, that was the concern people had. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Right.
Yeah.
Through the mayor, I want to address Councilmember Mohan. The reason we should
I think we could do also is let's start with this simple proposal and implement that. See if we do have the issue that people are parking into the residential area. If we do, then we come back, consider this more complicated proposal. Because that's what Councilmember Mohan mentioned is the Muni Code that's implemented in Saratoga, Los Altos, I think Mountain View, also Fremont. They did not distinguish between residential or not. They just say you have to move 1,000 feet or 1 mile after 72 hours. So maybe that's sufficient. And maybe we can try that first and see
through the mayor,
if we do have those issues we are concerned with.
Mayor, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Through the mayor, I want to address Councilmember Mohan here in terms of her point. I think it's very important to distinguish between residents and non-residents. The non-residents that are camping out here and taking up that space and creating the nuisance, that is the issue. That is why we're having this ordinance. And so we want to know who the non-residents are. But if the non-residents are here for business purpose, of course we want them here and we want to make it easier. What we don't want to do is put an undue burden on residents where we can, and we want to make sure that, if we can make it easier for the residents to get those permits for those cases where that they're having their RVs there or loading materials or in the middle of construction, it ties back to the non-residents with the business purpose because you have a guest over that came in. So maybe your guest came by and they came in an RV to come visit you and they're there for like the next, 72 hours. No one's going to complain. They probably won't complain if it's like maybe like 5 days. If it's there for the next 2 weeks, I think your residents are going to be, your neighbors are going to be pretty unhappy. And so that's where it comes into play. So it is important to distinguish between residents and non-residents.
Okay, so let's go to public comment and then bring it back.
Yes, Mayor, I have one request to speak in Community Hall, and I see 2 requests to speak virtually. Jean Bedord. Welcome, Jean.
Good evening. I wasn't expecting to speak on this because I have sent in letters that were very explicit. I can't help but think you're going down a rabbit hole. This is far too complicated. And what wasn't mentioned was that every resident who spoke at the Planning Commission were against a permit system. It's overly complicated, it's expensive, and you heard it could take a full-time technician to administer. Secondly, it doesn't address the actual problem. It appears that there's one spot that is problematic and generating complaints. And I counted them. There's about 15 on Alves Drive and about 7 on Bandley. I don't understand why we can't have a pretty simple system adopted by Mountain View, which is vehicles may not park on certain streets adjacent to Class 2 bikeways or on certain narrow streets. I mean, it could be our own definition, it doesn't have to be bikeways. And I would nominate that part of Alves which fronts on the Aloft, because that's where the complaints are coming from. You know, post it. I don't know if it needs city approval or not. It may be that code enforcement or public works can simply designate that street as you can't park RVs on that street, you know, during the, so. Also, I may point out that Mountain View has a successful RV program. It is not listed in the staff report. And I think that you need to really look to what is causing the problem and the differences between the RV dwellers. You have the people who have their recreational vehicles, and you may have oversized vehicles out in the neighborhoods due to construction or whatever type of thing. I don't think that's where the complaints are coming from. I think the complaints are coming from that one particular spot. And by the way, that's the only place I have seen a concentration of RV vehicles. The other recommendation I would make is to work with code enforcement and ask them what would help them address the complaints. Our staff knows the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Jean. And there are 2 members of the public requesting to speak virtually, San R. and Tracy K. Welcome, San.
Good evening, Mayor Chow and council members, chair of the Planning Commission, but speaking on behalf of myself. I do want to point out that you have received written communications from a number of businesses in the city that would like to see these problems addressed. You've received letters from the Aloft, from the daycare Happy Days, from the marina that did change their position slightly, but nonetheless. And I believe there has also been a letter from the chamber. And in addition, there's a number of resident complaints to code enforcement. What does not work is putting a burden on code enforcement to go out every 72 hours. That is not a sustainable thing, even if you change it from a few inches to 1,500 feet or a mile or 1,000 feet. That is just placing a burden on code enforcement. They're not staffed to do this. And every time they go out, the offenders find a way to game the system. And so, as Council Member Wong rightly pointed out, this is an issue that needs you to take a position that penalizes non-residents that are camping out in the city. This is not a do not distinguish against residents and non-residents. You completely miss the mark if you do that. And if you say 72 hours, then we have no difference between what we have right now. I can tell you code enforcement cannot solve the problem if you push it to them. You need to make a punitive policy. If you don't live here, you have no business parking here unless you have a valid reason. I think Council Member Wong nailed it. And as usual, Council Member Mohan completely misses the mark and does not understand the pains of residents and businesses alike. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, San. Next we have Tracy K. Welcome, Tracy.
Good evening, City Council. I'll make this quick. I know it's late. I wanted to echo Councilmember Fruin's point around the Olive program in San Jose. I did follow it very closely prior to the Planning Commission meeting. And, I think caveat that San Jose has far more resources to address the RVs than Cupertino does. But I think my biggest takeaway from following that program was really, I trust this council to make the right decision on there's many ways to address RVs, and I trust this council to make the right decision this evening. But the most important thing is to be data-driven and quantitative about it. And so San Jose had a check-back period, so they said for the problem areas, they would check back in 60 days, 90 days, and see how the RVs, had they moved and had they not. And I think, if I recall correctly, in the majority of instances, the RVs did move. But bottom line being, whatever solution that we pick, please have an evaluation period, whatever you view as feasible, 6 months, 1 year, and view complaints as your KPI. You want to see, with whatever solution you're picking, you want to see complaints from residents going down. And so I think, again, there's many ways to solve this problem. Let's just make sure that we are making sure that resident complaints go down. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tracy. And Mayor, no additional requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. So I do hope that we don't start with the permit system. But if we designate a certain two streets as no RV parking, then they will move to the next street, and then we will designate next street. So they will likely still just move to the next street and then still concentrate. That's, I think we could try that and see if they scatter, I guess. Council Member Wong and then Vice Mayor.
Yeah, I think, can we at least start with prohibited overnight street parking in general with the signs as suggested by staff? Overnight RV parking on public streets is not allowed. And choose whatever times. I'm not going to argue with anyone. I could care less if it's 8 or if it's 3 or like just choose your times. I'll go along with what everyone has there. And the second thing is like we make sure the private RV parking is okay, and leave it there and let code enforcement start there and see what happens. I agree that it's important not to choose one spot. If you go down one spot, with the member of the public who says it's only a problem in 2 streets, that is correct. But I'm starting to see the problem in Memorial Park. There's someone parked there already. I think there's 2 RVs that are parked there. I've seen some RVs that are parked further into some of the Garden Gate communities. I see some RVs parked on the other sides of around Main Street. So we're starting to see this problem spread, and I think the business owners are starting to see that as well. So I think it's important to have a citywide ban and not by streets. And the second piece is I agree, let's not burden the residents. The same member of the public, I think that's true. Let's not burden the residents along the way, but let's at least get these 2 things passed tonight. And at some point, I request a bio break if that's possible.
Oh, okay. So do we want the bio break now? Okay.
No, keep the discussion going. Do it after the vote.
Okay. So after this item, Councilmember Fruin. Sorry, it was Vice Mayor and Councilmember Fruin.
I'll let Vice Mayor go.
Okay, so I believe I've already stated that just to clarify that I am fine with the citywide ban, that you allow the 3-hour parking during the day. I think that it's probably going to be lightly enforced. No RV parking at night. I think the burden actually is in the reverse when the individual owning the RV is putting it out on their street. It's a visual nuisance to their neighbors, so they're kind of infringing on their experience. So having them get a permit, and there's an online method, doesn't seem that difficult to just get your driver's license there and put the permit on the dashboard, and you write down the days that you're going to use it, and you're good to go. And have that 20 time period be the limit, and for the non-residents, the 5 per year, 15 days total, I thought was pretty reasonable. So, and the signage. Is this something that our community development director has some comments on, that you think that this is workable, or did you have some thoughts, Director Fu, about some alternatives that you thought might be easier to implement?
Well, there has been a case where a city recently adopted citywide ban on RVs, except with permitting. So I think keep it as simple as possible. It's always easier for our team to perform. But I think, Vice Mayor, what you propose is something that potentially we could try it out and then document and see where the gaps may be.
That was kind of what I was thinking.
Mayor, real quick, while we've got Director Fu there, I would like to add one more piece. And part of the reason we have some of these issues is because when houses are being renovated and they have the curb cutouts that allow them to have a special driveway for the RV, you guys are actually killing those curb cutouts. You're getting rid of them. You're not allowing them to actually keep their RV parking. So in my neighborhood in Laurie Estates, we traditionally have a RV parking driveway and a regular driveway, and systematically the city has been getting rid of those. So I would add to that. I would add to this as well as can we stop doing that? So.
Yeah, I think my comment is that obviously every application comes in, staff will evaluate that against the city municipal codes. So if there's an area that council wants us to take a look at and make improvements, we're happy to do that.
No, but we've been systematically removing those curb cutout. And that's why you're going to end up leaving those RVs on the streets when you do that, when people can't park onto their lots. So that's something we should also look into.
Point of order. Mayor?
Yeah,
you said Councilmember Fruin would be next.
Yeah, so I'll just reiterate that I would prefer something simple as opposed to this very large permitting system that feels, I don't want to call it an overreaction. I get the nature of the problem, but it does feel like it is potentially a lot more expensive and significantly more intrusive than a simple ordinance update. So if this comes back to us as an option, I would at least like to know what it's going to cost on a clearer basis. And again, I would reiterate that we should really look at the OLIVE program. It has been very successful in San Jose. The one thing I would correct from the speaker who noted it is just that though San Jose may have more money overall on a per capita basis, it certainly has fewer resources, and the problem is much, much larger in San Jose than what it is in this city, and even in District 1, which is most similar to Cupertino. So, though there is always the worry that we will just push the problem around, the evidence out of San Jose, at least on the OLIVE program, seems to show mostly otherwise, and they have a contingency for the instances where it doesn't, in fact, resolve the problem. So I would encourage you to take a look at that.
Vice Mayor, and then Councilmember Mohan.
Thank you. So I was wondering if we could perhaps have a straw poll to see if we're coming to any consensus at all on this, or is the consensus that we have 2 or 3 now opposing or different ideas for how to proceed, and that we want to see this come back and look at 2 or perhaps 3 options now? Do we have some sense?
Yeah, just a quick comment, Mayor. I liked what Director Fu said. They are the people who have to do the enforcement. They're the folks who have to do the work. So it's a good idea to try out for 6 months, maybe a citywide ban on all RVs, and enforce a sort of a permit system in as simple a fashion as we can. Try it for 6 months, and
so we want something to try it for 6 months. What will be the something we can agree on? So let's do a straw vote. First, we want at most 72 hours, and they must move 1,500 feet and do not come back for 72 hours. That we agree on, right? Okay. And then, do we want no parking at night on public streets? That's it? So we don't want 1 hour?
I would support that.
So no parking on any public streets at night?
Like 10 p.m. to 6 a.m.
But then for
7.
the residents who are loading their truck for a trip, they might have to park there at night,
Get a
then
permit.
we would need some kind of
We'd have to have some
waiver system.
exceptions.
So we need some kind of permits.
Yes.
If we
Or
want to
exception-
do
or
overnight
exception.
parking or exception.
Exceptions for loading an RV, for moving, for active construction. Well, you don't want active construction at night, but for active, you don't want moving at night. It's really just loading
Yeah.
an RV at night.
We can, we can just do an exception that if they are loading their RV at night, then people complain, we can just check, oh, they are going on a trip, then that's it. We don't issue any citation, right? It could be like that.
Mayor, would an
So
online...
no parking at night except when active loading or conducting active business in Cupertino.
I was going to ask, would an online permit achieve that?
Yeah, an online permit and then a way to cure a violation. So for those who violate the first time, so they understand. Okay, so that we agree on. And anything else?
May
So
I
we do have
suggest-
an online permit system, but we are not distinguished residents or non-residents. But permit you have to apply, then you have to say you are, can a non-resident apply? But if they are conducting a business, they will be non-resident. So maybe just anyone can apply.
I say for the pilot program, we
It's
have an
just-
exception for the residents to get a permit.
Mhm.
And then we can see in 6 months if that's creating a problem for other
For non-resident
uses.
I'd like to suggest that we have the pilot program last for a year. As we looked into it, we don't think 6 months will be long enough for us to really understand whether it's working or not working.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a great
Yeah.
idea.
I hope to apply for a permit, do we want to distinguish between resident or non-resident? Non-resident.
Mayor?
Yeah.
I would like to have that distinction. I'm not really interested in having someone permitting
Okay.
and parking their RV in front of my house that doesn't live in the city. Yeah.
Except the neighbors have a problem with the RV and don't really, I think, care if it's a resident RV or a non-resident RV. The problem is with the RV.
In general, if it is your RV, you'll park it in front of your place because you're trying to load and unload. But if you're basically allowing the streets to be unlimited campground where they can just move around the city. That's not solving anything if you allow the non-residents to have unlimited access.
Okay, so
Can I
we.
ask a clarification question to the city attorney?
Mm-hmm.
When we say citywide ban, it also includes parks and city properties, right? Like people can't camp out and park their camper at the library for like 2 weeks.
Correct. I think we're going to include the public right-of-way and any publicly owned parking facility.
Okay, just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah.
Or I think I'm thinking all public streets, right?
Public streets and also all parking lots.
All public
Parking lots are
parking
important.
lots. Okay.
Private owners will get them towed. The public, we have to do the same thing in our public lot.
Okay. Now, so we have consensus so far. Then how about the extra permit for 5 per year for non-resident? Do we want to allow that, or maybe we will wait that for the second phase?
Mayor, through the mayor, I would suggest let's see how it goes and see how many permits people
Okay.
pull, and then you might good number. Maybe it's 7, maybe it's 2, maybe it's you'll get a good average in a year.
For non-residents? So
For-
what we have
residents.
currently is there is no. Oh, you mean for the residents?
For residents.
So right now, how many do we allow for resident? 20, right? The Vice Mayor was saying. So we have no parking at night on public streets or right of way, on
Parking lots.
or public parking lots, and at least 70 move after park at most 72 hours and must move 1,500 feet and do not come back to the same location for 72 hours. And we do allow a way to cure the first violation. And then 20 permits for residents to park for more than 72 hours. Is it? No?
The next question is the signage. Did we not want to look at the signage at this time?
So signage.
If we have a citywide permit,
So
then we
we'll
should have
have the
citywide.
city signage at the entrance and the sounds and the sound problem areas. Yeah, so we do want signage at the entrance exit of the city and some.
And Alvis and Bantley.
Yeah, some problem areas as the staff can identify those.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very good.
I would support sign it. I would support sign it.
Yeah, okay. So we have direction from the council. I don't think we need to vote, right?
We don't need to vote, and I appreciate the direction. I just want to flag that once you print the signs, they're printed, and the signs have to talk about what the specific rules are. So it makes it harder to change a year from now if we're changing rules. But what I'd like to do is consider this and consider what the signs would say, and if we have more questions, we might have to come back about the signs.
Yeah, I think we will come back for the first reading, right? So maybe at that time we can have the language for the signs. That would be great.
Very good.
Okay, great.
Mayor, the only thing I want to confirm is that the enforcement's going to remain complaint-based for now, and then
Yeah.
we'll report back to see if we need more resources. Okay.
Yeah. So we would bring it back in 1 year after implementation. It probably will take some time for implementation.
Could we have it be open-ended so staff could be like, okay, we get this, something needs to change, now it's time to bring it back, instead of saying specifically 1 year?
Okay. I mean, staff can bring it back earlier, of course, but at least bring it back in 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mayor, if you'd be willing to add to the direction a request that staff examine the OLIVE program as an alternative.
Yeah. That would be good. So we will have that information in the first reading or before that?
I think that it doesn't make sense to draft an ordinance and bring it back when we're still considering a potential alternate version. That's just a lot of extra effort. Maybe it makes sense for staff to look at the OLIVE program and maybe consult with the mayor and the city manager and determine whether we need to come back and talk again, or whether, okay, no, let's write this up where we feel it makes sense, what we've talked about.
So if we think we would like to modify it based on the OLIVE program, we may need another study session. Yeah. Okay.
I would recommend against the OLIVE program because it only targets specific streets. The way it's written, I think a broader ban like what Redwood City has is probably the way to go. I don't want to waste staff's time. As every city starts passing their bans, we look like an opportunity for everyone to park, so time is of the essence.
Yeah. Okay. Vice Mayor? Fine. Okay. So.
I tend to agree with Councilmember Wong on that. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so then that's it for the item. Now, do we need to vote? Oh, we already voted to extend the time. To Councilmember Wong,
I do believe
you need a bio break.
Mayor, I do believe the council needs to vote again to pass 11:30.
One
Suspended
point of
all
order,
rules.
you have to pass to go to 11:30, but I do have to catch a flight in the next 15 minutes, which is part of the challenge. Yes,
Okay.
and that's what I wanted to bring to your attention along with the bio break. So,
Okay, then, well, we'll just, okay, so we will do the, take a take 5 minute break, come back at 11:35.
Mayor, if we lose Councilmember Wong, I think then we would
we
need
have
to
to end
adjourn
the
the
meeting?
meeting. Correct.
We have to end the meeting?
Since Councilmember Wong has posted his location as a public place.
That's right, like last time.
Correct.
Okay, so can you do without the bio break?
Yes.
Or
I feel like I'm on the spot here. Sorry.
then I would propose that we postpone the item to September, because I do think we need sufficient time to discuss it. And I have a, okay.
All I will say, Mayor, is
also-
that the other jurisdictions will move along without us if we do that.
Yeah. Okay, so I would like to postpone the item, and I have proposed a draft resolution which I sent to the staff that it's entered supposedly into the written communication for the council to consider. So, yeah. So let's move to postpone the item 13 to to the next regular council meeting. Okay.
More second?
Let's vote.
Councilmember Fruin?
No.
Councilmember Mohan?
Yes.
Councilmember Wong?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Moore?
Aye.
Mayor Chow?
Aye.
The motion carries with Fruin voting no.
Okay, then now the meeting is adjourned.